So now that Bitcoin finally went under $90,000, which we have predicted on this channel was a likely outcome, we were actually even talking about it in my Telegram last night. What's going to happen next? Is the correction over or is it ongoing? So I want to do a crypto market update that kind of goes through Bitcoin, Ethereum, stable coins, and altcoins to get a big picture idea of where the crypto market is headed in the second half of January. I did say publicly several times that the earliest I could see the market turning around was the middle of January, and the latest would be sometime in February. So we are at the middle of January at this point. So it is reasonable to at least suspect that the correction could be over and we might be turning the corner. But we'd like to see evidence for that. So I'm going to go ahead and check that out. This is crypto simulation theory. I'm the Gaussian snake. Nothing in this video should be considered financial advice. So I have Bitcoin on the daily time frame pulled up, and I've been looking at this very, very closely over the past few weeks. And you can see that in yellow we have the 20-day whole moving average. The blue is the 50-day. The white is the 100, and the red is the 200. We are beneath all of the key moving averages until today, and so we had a really huge kind of drop in the past few days. The $90,000 level has been holding as a nice floor, and then what happened yesterday, I guess, if you look at this new day that started, as we had a really precipitous drop to near my red zone. Gosh, my red zone almost got hit. I had a red zone on this channel from 84,500 to 88,500. That was bought up very, very quick. And we are back at around $95,000, right at the intersection of an incoming death cross of the 20-day HMA and the 50-day HMA. So, it does beg the question, is the downtrend over, or does it still have more legs to it? And are we going to go back into the red zone another time? And we're going to need to look under the hood at different indicators, kind of get an idea about that. This is not an easy question to answer, but I'm always up for a challenge to try to analyze, what I think might happen with Bitcoin. So I think to do that, we're going to have to zoom out and kind of get a sense of the macro market momentum. One of the things that I did notice last night is that the stochastic oscillator was getting pretty cold. I used the term, I forgot I had all these indicators already open. But I know we were down in these levels. And so I did say on my channel, if you were in my Telegram group, that I thought that we would get to near 90K and then bounce around there. That is exactly what happened. Now the question is, where do we go from here? My intuition tells me the correction is not over and that we are going to roll back over again. But that's just my intuition. I have to go with what the data says. You can see on the daily wave trend, we did kind of bottom out here a little bit, although this green is not super convincing. The rate of change indicator is still in the negative, but curling back up. Okay, this is all daily time frame stuff. Trix bubble is actually curling up, suggesting that there's definitely some momentum behind this bounce that we just had. So if you're just looking on the daily time frame, it could be very easy to think that the worst is behind us, and that's why it's never a good idea to just look at a single time frame. Zooming out to the weekly time frame, interesting, right? So we, here's the 20-week HMA curling over. We've got the 50-week HMA, which golden cross back in December with the 100-week HMA. The 200 is way down here. So we did tag the 50-week HMA today, which was at 90.5K and went just below that, just below 90K. And this reminds me a lot of what happened last, I think it was about a year ago, when Bitcoin was fighting the 60K level, and people thought it wouldn't go under 60K because it was just holding that really well. And then we had some FUD, around Iran. I don't know if you remember that. And we had a really, really strong drop to 58.5K, and it was bought up super quickly. So I had a feeling something like this was going to happen. I said it publicly last night in my channel. And so it's well, where do we go from here? So we got to pull up some things on the weekly to kind of get an idea of what might be happening. We'll throw up a Gauss ribbon. We are still, this is a green Gauss ribbon, and it's expanding. Okay. That, is typically kind of bullish, but when you do get very expansive on your Gauss ribbon, it can sometimes contract. So that's something to keep in mind. That could happen. Not a really strong indicator to be looking at the moment. One thing is a parabolic SAR. I did notice that we had our uptrend SAR kind of complete, and we now have our second dot of a downtrend SAR. And that's that to invalidate that SAR, we would have to get to around 108K, which is near our previous all-time high. And so that's suggesting to me that this downtrend could continue and is likely to continue. I don't know. I just feel like if we were going to stop out anywhere, it would probably be somewhere near the 100 week HMA. I mean, last time we stopped out at the 200 week HMA and we tested that, bounced off of it. I think this time we might have to test the 100 week HMA. And so this is why I still believe the red zone is in play. And the SAR indicator gives me a little bit of confidence behind that. We are beneath, well, not anymore, but we were beneath the green band of the Gunnar EMA. Gunnar EMA is starting to turn over a little bit. The red band is at 83.2K. I don't think this band has to close. I mean, even if we got into the red zone, I don't think it would necessarily close. You'd have to get below this band here for that to happen. I don't think we're going down to the 200 and testing it for a second time. The 200 week is not something we test often, so I don't really see that. Think that's going to happen. If you go back to past bull markets, like let's go back to 2016, because I think that bull market is probably the most similar to where we are, what we're dealing with today. Okay. You can see in 2016, we got above the 200 week and we rode that thing for a long, long time. We didn't even test it until near the end of the bull market. So the behavior we've had now, but look at how many times the 100 week got tested. The 100 week got tested in August of 2016. I'm going to turn off the Gunnar EMA because it's distracting me. The 100 week got tested again in January 17, got tested in March of 17, almost got tested in July, almost got tested in September, and finally it just broke through in February. And that was already in the bear market. If we go back to the 2020-2021 bull cycle, it was just a lot of chop, right? And we were chopping around the 200 week HMA quite a bit. You could argue here in maybe August, September, we almost got to the 100 week HMA, but it was really just, we took off and what a mess this was. What a mess. Okay. So I don't know. There's maybe not a lot like it if we go back in history to what we're experiencing now. I don't know. I don't think we're going down to 71K. I've heard calls for that. I don't think that's likely. But could we get into this red zone? I think that is certainly possible. Could this golden cross of the 50 with the 100 roll back over into a death cross? I mean, it could happen. It's pretty hard to move the 50 week. We would need some pretty aggressive downward price action. So a lot of questions, right? A lot of questions to look at. One thing I'd like to look at is the weekly ADX and DI. Sorry, I turned on something I didn't mean to turn on. And then I double clicked. So let's get back in here. Okay. Yeah, we were going to look at the ADX and DI, right? So let's pull that up. Okay. We got two of them pulled up. I'm going to close out some of these other things for now. Okay, I don't want too many things open at once. All right, so with the ADX and DI, the thing that leads me to believe we could have more downward price action is the trend strength is pretty strong at around 42. What I'm really not liking is that the green DI is heading toward the red DI. That indicates a weakening bull trend. I don't like that. Now, as you see, you can have a weakening bull trend and then you can have second life in it. The other thing too is that the ADX has already crossed the green DI, which is generally not a great thing either. So I'm not really enjoying the way this is looking right now. It doesn't give me much confidence that we're heading back up to the 1.272 fib anytime soon, but this is just one indicator. Another thing I'd like to look at is the average sentiment oscillator, or ASO. And I do like the way this looks. I mean, I will say we're at pretty extended levels that we haven't seen in nearly a year. After having, I would say, June of 2024 all the way through October of 2024, this giant bear bubble, we did get a bull bubble, and we're back up at some pretty high levels. Now we're not at super overextended levels. Like, you can see these bubbles can get very powerful. Like if you look at the 2021 bull market, when you're in peak mania, you can get all the way up to 82. If we go back to even 2019, we were at 80. If you look at the 2017 cycle, typically hitting the 80 to 82 level is pretty significant in a bull market. 2012, we got only to 82. We got to 90. We haven't hit levels like that in many, many years, and I don't think we will anytime soon. But looking at the current bull bubble, it looks like it still has life left in it. So even though we're kind of pulling back, I do think this will turn around in February. That's like I'm open-minded to the idea of a red January. If we look on the monthly right now, I don't think January is red anymore. It's green. It certainly would have been red if so. We don't even know how this is going to end up. But this is not a very convincing situation for me at the moment. That I again we're still only halfway through the month. But this, the thing is, like, could this correction go on even longer than I think? Could it go on through February and March? I mean, could quarter one end up being kind of disappointing? Sure. Is that my base case? No, not yet. We are still above on the monthly, the 20-month HMA, the 50-month HMA, and the 100-month HMA. So, and we don't have a 200-month, doesn't exist. So, I mean, there's no reason really to believe that we're doomed. I mean, if we look on the 2-week, which is a little bit more useful to me, it just makes me think that there's more weakness to come. Like, this is the 100 week right here at about 86K. I think that's likely to get hit. We're below the 40 month. Okay. So we're below the 40 month. I'm sorry, 40 week. We're below the 40 week. We're above the 100 week. This is the 200 week. I'm not too worried about these moving averages, but it just looks like this wants to curl down. And if we go to an indicator like the stochastic RSI, I'm sorry, the stochastic oscillator, doesn't it look a little like, kind of a head and shoulders, like we're heading down, right? That's kind of how it looks to me. But I don't think we have to go that far down. I really think if we can make it to this red zone, maybe within the next couple of weeks, then that should be sufficient downside. Maybe the stochastic oscillator finds its way in the middle here. I mean, we already went all the way down to the bottom, which is not something that happens often on the 2-week, right? Like the last time that happened, we were not heading into a bear market, was July of 2021. So I personally think that there'll be a little bit more downside. I think we're going to get into the red zone with Bitcoin, but I think we'll be able to come out of it. So the stochastic oscillator kind of makes me think that if we were to look at the wave trend on the 2-week, let's see what that looks like. You have a bearish divergence dot, so I think this is going to have some life to it. Could take us into February. So I'm very open-minded to the idea of a red January. It's kind of slowly becoming my base case. I haven't really committed to it yet, but I guess I should commit to it given that it's January 13th. But I'll give it a few more days. I don't know. I just think that, how often do we get red dots on the 2-week? Like these bearish divergence dots? Not that often. Now, the exception is where I say, there's some notable similarities to the 2016, 2017 bull market is right here. We got a red dot, came down, went back up. Red dot came down, and we got, once you start to get up here, you're pretty darn overheated. And that happened also in 2021. We only got one red dot. Already in this cycle, we are on our second red dot, but we have yet to get up into the overheated region, like truly overheated, like bonkers, right? This is overheated where we are right now. But excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold. But this black region up here would be truly overheated. So this suggests that there's probably a little bit more downward price action, but I could see us coming up and hitting a red dot later in quarter one or even quarter two. I have to be open-minded to extending my timeline because, I have to just react to whatever the market gives me. So that's sort of how I feel about Bitcoin. I mean, if you look at the Gaussian channel on the 2-week, of course, this is very, very lagging. It still looks really strong. Like that channel, let me tune out the fibs for a minute. I don't know, that channel just looks strong, right? And it's got so much support. The moving averages are still lined up from least to greatest, exactly like you'd want them in a proper bull market. Okay, so could this come back and death cross later on in the year with the, could the 40-week death cross with the 100? It could happen. Okay, we haven't really seen that peak mania condition with our moving averages, like you saw in 2021. Look at that, where you have everything just lined up perfectly all the way from the 40-week to the 100 to 200 and even the 400-week. This is what you want to see. We haven't seen that yet, so I don't think peak mania has occurred yet, and it might actually be a little while before it does occur. Like, it might take longer than we think it's going to take, and there could be multiple reasons for that, right? Global liquidity could be one of them. Maybe we don't have enough liquidity in the system. So one of the things is if we go to the Dixie, I don't really look at this metric that often anymore because I think a lot of people misinterpret how to use the Dixie. But when the Dixie is going up aggressively, that's generally not good for crypto. Okay, crypto and the Dixie are not perfectly correlated. Like there are cases where the Dixie might be going up and crypto would be going up too, or the Dixie's going down. But you can see usually when the Dixie is going parabolic, this is not a good thing. Now, the Dixie is kind of trying to retest some of the previous breakdown points. So if I drew fibs, you could say the Dixie's gotten above its 618. That's not good. But it's also not a terrible thing because if the Dixie, let's say the Dixie goes up to the 786 fib, I'm going to turn off these HMAs for now. I don't need these on a Dixie. Maybe we'll put on a Bollinger Band. So Dixie is definitely kind of going parabolic right now. I think the 786 is probably going to act as resistance for the Dixie. I mean, this is a really strong bottoming formation, but I don't think we're just going off to new all-time highs right now. I don't think that's happening. I think there's a setback. And if you look at the reverse carry trade, so this is the yen versus the dollar, we are seeing a breakdown right at the moment. We had a breakdown in late 2024 of the yen against the dollar, but we're seeing kind of a bottoming process. So who knows what's going to happen here? Are we going to see a resurgence of the yen against the dollar? I think we will eventually, but it's been kind of breaking down. And so when the yen is breaking down, that means the dollar is getting stronger. That's generally not a great thing for risk assets. So we have that to consider. As far as stock market goes, let's take a look at what's going on there. We're seeing a little bit of a rollover starting to happen on the weekly, so maybe a little bit of consolidation. So, things are taking sort of a little break at the moment. Markets are not like super red hot like they've been. And this is not going to be good for our crypto. So if we look at Bitcoin dominance, Bitcoin dominance is back at the 618 fib. I still think this is a dead cat bounce. Like my mind hasn't changed. But who's to say that this bounce can't have some life to it? One of the things I talked about before was being open-minded to the idea that we could tap 60% again. We could put in like a double top on Bitcoin dominance. I'm still open-minded to that idea. Like if we look under the hood at dominance, look at the ADX and DI, it's got a bullish crossover, but the trend strength is going down. So that does sort of lead me to believe that Bitcoin, this is really just a dead cat bounce. Okay, that's been my base case all along. If we were to look at maybe the Trix bubble, I would expect that this is kind of turning up at the moment. It's turning up, but just lower high after lower high after lower high, kind of flattening out. So I'm not really anticipating that this move by Dixie has like much left in the tank, maybe a few weeks. Maybe January closes red for crypto, but I still think February is going to be a bullish month. I don't know if February will take us to a new all-time high for Bitcoin. I mean, I'd like to think it would, but I don't know. But I do think that we're entering into a period of transition. And while I feel like 2024 is undoubtedly a Bitcoin year, I'm not so sure that 2025 will be. You can see ETH Bitcoin, in my mind, has bottomed. Like you could argue it could go a little bit lower. It could, but I think it's about to make the turn. I think that it's taking longer for Ethereum to show strength against Bitcoin than we expected it to. And this is going to hold back some of our altcoins. This is going to maybe prolong altcoin season. I've been sort of the school of thought that February was going to be a great time for altcoins. I still believe that, but this is a pretty substantial bottoming process. We've come within a hair of the previous major low by ETH Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin dominance goes higher and the Dixie goes up to its 786, it's possible ETH Bitcoin hasn't bottomed yet, and maybe we bottom at the 382. Okay, I have to be open-minded to that, but regardless, ETH Bitcoin is due a bounce. The last time ETH Bitcoin even tried to challenge the median line of its Bollinger Band was all the way back in July. So this is, well, no, that's not true. I mean, it tried to challenge it in November and December, but like where it really like got above it for a while. That's more of what I mean. Like this is kind of a joke right here. So I feel like ETH Bitcoin is due some kind of mean reversion. Like we're below the 0.5 fib. We were unable to hold it. But maybe we have to go to the 382 first. So I guess I'm not convinced that ETH Bitcoin has bottomed. I'm a little sad about that, but it just doesn't look like it, right? Like this Trix bubble doesn't look good. ETH Bitcoin's, it's probably going to take out the low. It's probably going to put in a new low. So this is not going to be great for our altcoins, especially the Ethereum based ones. Just prolongs, this bull season that we've been expecting from Ethereum. I still think we're going to get one. Like, I'm not of the opinion that this time is different in the sense that we're not going to see that. But yeah, the stochastic oscillator looks horrible. I mean, I think, yeah, unfortunately, we'll call it a bottoming process. That's what we can do. I'm a bit of an Ethereum maxi, so this does sadden me. But at the same time, I have to react to the data and not put my confirmation bias on it. 2 week looks absolutely miserable. But the 2 week does give us clues, right? It gives us clues that we probably are going to go a little bit lower. But you can see just how sharp of a downturn this is. Look at this Gaussian channel just straight down. You have to think this is going to inflect sooner or later. Maybe it doesn't inflect until late Q1 or early Q2. I mean, we need to be open-minded, right? But I just can't see there's got to be some mean reversion down here. We have dropped so precipitously. This is going to have to crab in here for a little while, but I'm anticipating that this median line of this Gaussian of this Bollinger Band is going to start to curve. But it might take a while to do that. And we might not see our ETH season as soon as we think, right? It's a horrible feeling, but at the same time, things are different in this cycle than other cycles in a certain sense. Like if we think about, for instance, the federal funds rate, right? I want to show you, it's just not what it used to be, right? So I'm going to turn off the Gaussian channel and turn off the Bollinger Band. I think we just look at pure data here. But the federal funds rate's at 4.48%. Okay. We have not been this high in a long, long while. In fact, the last time we were even close to this high was before Bitcoin even existed. So it's hard to say exactly what impact the federal funds rate being elevated is having on crypto. It could be having a pretty significant effect that won't be obvious in hindsight. And if you go to the CME group predictions, right, for the prediction rates, give me a second. I'm going to pull it up for you. I just don't want you to have to see me Google searching here. But here, I'll pull it up now. I mean, this is not what quantitative easing, right? I think we're still in an era of quantitative tightening. And I think you're feeling that way. I think that's why ETH Bitcoin looks so bad at this point in the year. I do think that ETH Bitcoin's recovery could be delayed. And maybe February isn't going to be as great to ETH Bitcoin as I think it's going to be. 97.3% chance that on January 29th, the Fed is going to pause. Okay. And if you look at the probabilities for the year, they don't look much better. Let me blow this up so you can see it. I mean, guys, this is basically saying that for the next few months, Q1 and Q2, that the CME group thinks that the Fed's going to pause. They're going to hold rates. This is higher for longer. This is not quantitative easing. In fact, they're not even projecting a rate cut until July. So we have to consider that this could do things to our crypto bull market that maybe we're not quite anticipating. And this is why I'm not super aggressive right now about calling a reversal on Bitcoin. I think things are more likely to get worse than get better this month for Bitcoin and of course, by association, all other risk assets. Why is this happening? Well, one place to look is inflation, right? So if we go to inflation, what do we notice? Well, it's been trending down and certainly trending down in a really nice way. The Fed has kind of done their job, I guess. I don't really want to pat them on the back and say they've done such a great job. I mean, because the Fed is the reason for a lot of the problems we have. But if you do flip on a Gaussian channel and just kind of blow this up, what you can see is that inflation since June of 2022 and the aggressive rate hike cycle has come down substantially. achieved a macro bottom in September of we'll just call it 2.4%. Inflation is back up at 2.73, heading towards this median line. Now, and we have CPI and PPI data coming out this week. I think we should get some of that data tomorrow and also on Wednesday. And so that'll be interesting to see, because that can be a precursor to how is this just another bounce by inflation that's going to roll over, or is this potentially a change in trend? Personally, I think this Gaussian channel is about to flip red. And generally, when a Gaussian channel first flips red, although it is tight, it's a tight channel. It's not a wide channel. But typically, that means the prevailing momentum is still bearish. This does look like a bear market for inflation. And yes, inflation follows trends just like anything else. So my suspicion is this will roll back over. The thing is, I don't really know when that's going to happen. But I think sometime in Q1 or Q2, we'll see a rollover. What I don't really like, though, is that the Bollinger Bands are starting to tighten and they're starting to flatten out a little bit. So that means that inflation is probably done falling dramatically. And if it falls some more, it's going to hit some floor. I don't think it's going to make it to 2%. If the Fed does do higher for longer, see, that's the thing. Like if they can do higher for longer and not raise rates, then it could potentially make it here. This is where I say like the risk markets are very unpredictable right now, and we could see some things happen this year that completely blow our mind. Okay. And this is something that I definitely want to keep a close watch on. I'm not terribly happy to see inflation at 2.7%. We'd like to see the next reading come in lower. If that happens, that's a good thing. Regardless, I think inflation is going to be ranging. And a ranging inflation means that the Feds cannot confidently cut rates too much, right? And then the other issue is the unemployment rate. Okay. This is something that we also have to keep our eyes on. Like the unemployment rate, folks, is heading in the wrong direction. Like it has formed a bowl. And yes, it has pulled back a little bit recently, which I also predicted would happen because of holidays. But the Gaussian channel looks like it's starting to flatten out and potentially go concave up. And that's not good because that means unemployment is going to be trending in the wrong direction. And how much unemployment can the U.S. handle before we're in a technical recession? These are things I wonder about. I don't have the answers to this, but I do wonder about it. So all that has to be taken into context when you look at something like ETH Bitcoin, and you see that on the 2-week it looks absolutely horrible, but it's in a range, right? I don't think the ETH Bitcoin is going to get below its 382 and go to the 236 or anything like that. I think that is very, very unlikely. I mean, if you look at the VRVP for ETH Bitcoin, there's a brick wall of support at the 382. So I think this is a bottoming, and that's considering all data, right? Like I got to pull in all the data. Okay, so when I really pull in all the data, you can see the 382 is like a brick wall. So I really feel like ETH Bitcoin is bottoming, but I don't know how long this bottoming process is going to take. I don't know what it's going to look like. It may range between the 382 and the 0.5. It may pop its head up above the 0.5 and just come right back down. I don't think it's going to be a quick and swift recovery because of the macro situation. And that is a little bit unfortunate, like when you consider, okay, well, if ETH Bitcoin isn't doing well, what about other altcoins? How are they doing? So, maybe we should take a look at that next. So total 3 minus USDT divided by Bitcoin. Oh, actually looks better than ETH Bitcoin, right? So maybe Ethereum isn't as impactful at the moment as we would like to think it could be. So far, altcoins against Bitcoin appear to have bottomed in November, but I'm skeptical, especially with a rising dominance that this can hold. We are getting rejected at the lower boundary of the red Gaussian channel. This is not what you want to see. Look at that, how that got rejected, because this typically means a rollover, which means more pain for altcoins. If we pull up the altcoin season index, just take a look at it. Okay, so I'm working on loading it right now. We can see the altcoin season index right now at 51. It's really not doing a whole lot, right? Like I already predicted this would happen, that we would get to the range highs which we are, and we're testing those and we're holding them. So I think we're just going to kind of range with altcoin season index as long as things look the way they do in the macro. So yeah, what's going to happen with this Gaussian channel? Well, I like that it's tight. The fact that it's tight is nice. I don't really like the fact that we put in a lower low in November after such a beautiful range over here. This looks, very similar to ETH Bitcoin. Like ETH Bitcoin might range for a little while. Sorry, we're looking at the wrong chart here. Yeah. You missed turn at the altcoin season index, but yeah. So we had this range and then kind of broke out of it. Let's take a look at the stochastic oscillator on total 3 minus USD. It's not looking good, right? So it's looking like a rollover is going to happen most likely, and this is on a 2 week. So I don't know, folks. I've been very bullish on quarter one, but I may be wrong, and quarter one may not be as bullish as I've been projecting it to be. Maybe quarter two is where things get bullish. This is just not convincing to me that the pain is over necessarily by February, as much as I would like to think and give myself and give my members of my channel hope. I'm having a hard time seeing that. I guess on the positive side, we do have a clear bullish divergence on the KZX RSI, but then we also have a double top up here. So, I mean, I don't think things are going to be as bad as they've been in the past. Maybe we can hold this low. Maybe what we do is just chop around at the 0.5 fib for a little while. I'd be fine with that. But, and I do like the way the Gaussian channel looks on the 2 week. It's a really nice 2 week Gaussian. Maybe go to the 1 week and see what that's looking like. On the 1 week is good in the sense that we've actually gotten above the channel. So yeah, I mean, maybe we're just going to range for a little while. I still would like to believe that quarter one can be a bullish time for altcoins, but a lot's going to depend on what happens in the next few weeks. Like, it'd be foolish of me to try to make a prediction right now because it's just, things are just too uncertain. I mean, like, look at others' dominance. Clear rejection at the Gaussian channel midline, heading down underneath the Bollinger Band. It's just ranging. It's just ranging in the, anywhere between 8% and like as high as 12%, but it's not doing anything that exciting. I mean, this macro wise looks like a great, kind of like double bottom pattern, but that has yet to be really proven, right? It's all speculation. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Going back to Bitcoin. I'm sorry, wrong Bitcoin. I really should just put these on my list and stop typing these in, but old habits are hard to break. Yeah, you can see right now Bitcoin is right at the median line of its weighted logarithm of its Bollinger Band. Look, things could get worse than I'm projecting. I'm saying red zone, but we could go lower. This is not a pretty picture right here. This does not look good. Okay, there's no way to sugarcoat it. It just doesn't look good. And I think the macro picture is telling us something. I mean, and if we again go to the indicators, let's pick something we haven't looked at. How about the reverse Channing momentum oscillator, RCMO? Look how close it is to going bearish. It's right at the green line. This is not it got up to a pretty high level. It's got to cool off a little bit. I don't know, folks. I don't know. I want to see how Bitcoin behaves if it gets to this red zone and then kind of go from there. I mean, the Bollinger Bands are pretty fat right now. When they've been fat like this in the past, it's meant to spill over. We just had 6 months of ranging. Are we going to have to spill over again? That's just not something that I'm really anticipating at the moment. So how about this? Let's just take things like, 1 week at a time. Let's first see how we behave in this red zone. I think it's almost a given that we get to this red zone between 84.5 and 88.5K. There's going to be a battle at 90K. We do not want to give 90K up, but I don't think the market conditions are very favorable right now. One thing I didn't really pay much attention to is the fact that the Gaussian channel is concave down and wide, and that's not a good thing usually. Okay, that's not a good thing and not what you want to see in a bull market. You want to see a tight upward Gaussian, which we still have on the 2 week. On the daily time frame, we lost the green Gaussian and went underneath it. But look at I said the next place to look, I said this in my Telegram, was the bottom line of the green Gaussian, and we tagged that and came back up, and we're right back at the bound. And we're fighting for dear life here, but I don't know, folks. I think it's going to be a losing battle. Gaussian's going to probably flip red, and we're going to be in this red zone. And I don't think the end of this month is going to be pretty for Bitcoin or for altcoins. I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating, right? Like going back to dominance. Like, I'm not enjoying seeing this dead cat bounce. I'm really not. It's a strong bounce too. Like, we have bounced off the 0.5 fib to above the 0.618. And when you get above the 618, the 618 is not given up easily. The Gaussian channel is also curving back up. So, you know what would really suck, but we should at least consider it as a possibility, is not my base case, but we need to get these thoughts in our head. We need to get a little bit more bearish. Okay. Which is, what if Bitcoin dominance ranges for a while and then resurges in late Q1 and surprises everybody? What if that happens? And what if altcoin season gets delayed? It's something to consider. It's not my base case at the moment. My base case at the moment is wait and see. Okay. The only thing I'm confident about, let me be clear with you, are two things. I'm pretty confident that the daily Gaussian for Bitcoin is not going to hold. I'm looking at the wrong red zone here. I'm at the wrong chart once again because I typed in the wrong Bitcoin. Okay, back to this one, this red zone. I'm pretty confident this green Gaussian is not going to hold and that we are going to enter into this red zone between 84.5 and 88.5K. That's something I'm fairly confident about. I'm also fairly confident that ETH Bitcoin is not done with this bottoming process anytime real soon, and that the bottoming process could actually last a lot longer than we think. Okay. It really is frustrating to see the Gaussian channel go green on a daily. Let's go with ETH Bitcoin. I want to look more on like a 2-week. Okay. We are so far away from this Gaussian channel. Has this happened in the past? Yes, it has. And oftentimes when this happens, you get a mean reversion. But even back then, like, we got all the way down to this level of 0.017 back in September of 2019. And look at how many times we had to ride this line. January 2020, May 2020. I mean, it just took a while for ETH Bitcoin to even get back above the red Gaussian on the 2-week. So we might still have a little ways to go here, you know? And it might not even be till the summer. Who knows? Maybe the summer is where crypto shines. Like, things could be just so different this time because of the liquidity cycle being the way that it is. And maybe it is delaying mania. Maybe it's delaying mania. And this might be a much longer bull cycle than we think it's going to be. You know, this bull cycle could even go into 2026. I know it's crazy to say that, but if we keep getting these long pauses, like let's say that what we're in right now ends up being a long pause, do you realize what that does to risk? Like, I keep going to the wrong one. Or was this? No, this is the right one, I think. No, it's the wrong one. Okay. Folks, I apologize for my carelessness. But like what I'm trying to say is, like, I was trying to pull up risk. Let me pull up the risk on Bitcoin right now. Okay. So you can see that, like, it's just like crazy. Like, things are going so much slower than what I feel like they normally would be. Let's tune out a few things here. Let's tune out the Bollinger Band. Let's tune out the Gaussian channel. Just focus on risk. We're at a risk level of 58.85. You know, we're up at this band here. It took us forever to get up here too. Like, if you think back February 2024 all the way to like freaking November, then we got up here. I did not think, and I still do not think, we're going to range for 6 months. Like, that seems like absurd. But what if we range for longer than what I might think? And, you know, somebody in my chat actually suggested this, and I kind of laughed at them initially, but maybe they were right. We're at a risk level of around 60. 100 risk is $186,000 Bitcoin. So what if we range for much longer than people think, and maybe range for most of Q1 and maybe pop off in April or something? You know, like, these are just ideas I'm throwing out there. Okay. Helps to have an open mind. And we kind of come down in risk. So let's say, you know, we come closer to 50 risk. Okay. Which would be below my red zone, maybe on a wick or something. And then we start to turn around. Like, 100 risk at that point for Bitcoin is going to probably be close to $200,000, meaning that the top of this, you know, of what's possible for Bitcoin is increasing with time. And you can kind of, you know, see that if we get out into 2026, we start to see Bitcoin prices potentially in the 240 levels. So could this be a very long bull market? And and with extended corrective periods that are not as volatile as they've been in the past? Yes, it could. And I'm starting to wonder if that's what's going to happen. Could it be a while before Ethereum starts to show some real strength against Bitcoin? Could the first part of 2025 be a Bitcoin year? We need to be open-minded to that possibility because the markets are not definitively risk on at the moment. Dixie's going crazy. One other thing I wanted to look at was tether dominance. Okay. I maybe should have paid more attention to this when I noticed what looks like a double bottom. To me, it was just, breakdown from a bear flag. Here we're going to just form another bear flag. But it makes you wonder, what is going on right now, right? It does look like a bear market for stable coins. And I still think it is. I still think we're going to have a bull market. We're going to have bullish periods. But look at this leg. We went all the way from the 382, almost up to the 786. That's a long ways to go. Back down to the 382, and we're holding the 382. What happens next? You tell me. I don't honestly know with stablecoins what's going to happen. Let's take a look at some indicators. Let's look at the stochastic oscillator. It looks like, either it's going to come back down here or it's going to start going up, right? I don't think it's going to go up in a dramatic way. I don't think we're going back to the 786, but could we put another bear flag that takes us to 0.5 in March or February? Sure. I think that could happen and then roll back over, right? So I would be watching the 0.5 fib. I don't think we're going to get to the 618, especially with the Gaussian turned down like this. It's suggesting there's quite a bit of negative momentum with stable coins. If we look at the Trix bubble, it's looking like it's curling back up. So I think we're in for more pain this quarter. I'm not confident about January being bullish at all. I'm actually leaning very kind of bearish on January. I think a red January is a likely outcome. A red February is a possibility as well. And it's the first time I'm acknowledging this. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let's talk about February when we get a little bit further through January. My thesis right now is not that optimistic for quarter one as it used to be. Okay. And then it just has to do with the macro and kind of seeing what's going on. It's just not a pretty picture. The only thing that when you look, sorry, I'm always coming to the wrong Bitcoin here. I think I have the right one here. I actually do use this thing, but I need to update it. So I love this Gaussian channel. It's beautiful. This 2-week Gaussian is as tight as you want it to be. Look at how tight that was in 2017. Just very, very beautiful. But conditions are different. This Gaussian is more of a ranging, right? A ranging Gaussian compared to here. It was like a takeoff, right? This is more long ranging. I think we'll eventually take off, but we're so far away. The top of the 2-week Gaussian's only at 48.8K. I don't think we're coming down that far. Okay, let me be clear about that. But this has a long ways to go. Okay. Usually when you get this extended from a 2-week Gaussian, it pulls you back down to earth. And I think we're going to see some pulling. So yeah, I'm very, I don't know, I'm very wary at the moment about what's going to happen here. I'm not thinking we're heading into a bear market. Let me be super clear about that. I don't think we're about to start a bear market. But I do think that it may take longer to recover from this drawdown than it seems, than maybe people think. I'm still thinking February could be green. I'm less confident about that now than I was before. But I reserve the right to be bullish on February. I'm bearish on January. I'm just bearish on it. Now, if I'm invalidated, so be it. I'd be happy for that. It'd be great for my portfolio, great for yours. I'm also thinking that altcoin season is going to take a little longer to get going than we originally anticipated. And altcoin season's behaving strangely this time around too. We've got things popping off randomly. We had virtuals popping off, base popping off. SWE was kind of doing its own thing. So things are just kind of running a little bit differently than before. Like if we go to the altcoin season index, let me be clear about something. We do not need to be at levels of 70 or above, or 75 or above, to have altcoins popping off. Okay, we don't need that. That doesn't have to happen. This is just peak altcoin season. But anytime this is trending up, that's good for altcoins. We're going sideways right now. But notice we're not in Bitcoin season. Could this come down? It could, right? This could come down. It could continue to test these lows. Like if we look at the top 50 performers, Bitcoin's moving back up again, right? And if you look at the top ones, it's not that encouraging. Like these are mostly Dino coins. SWI, of course, being an exception, super strong performer, and virtuals. The AI agent thing is absolutely insane. But for the most part, these are older coins. Okay, there's some exceptions in here, and so that's a little bit concerning to see Bitcoin sort of moving its way back up. And it's not really what you want to see. So, is it just a January pullback, or are we going to have a quarter one crab trend? I guess the jury's still out on that. Am I concerned about some kind of like dramatic red candle appearing? Not really. I don't think that's likely to happen. Could we test the crab breakout? I think it's possible. It's not my base case though. I still think somewhere in here is where we'll find our support, somewhere in the 80s. Okay, folks. Well, this was a very, very long crypto market update video. I hope you enjoy the content, the detail that we go into here at Crypto Simulation Theory. We try to give you a lot of value for the money that you don't pay. Okay, it's completely free. I would encourage you to join our Telegram channel if you haven't done so already. Very, very active on Telegram, more active than I am on YouTube even. But I'd love to have you subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can be notified of future releases when they come out. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Bitcoin very closely. We're going to keep an eye on what the Fed's doing. Big week this week, January 29th, FOMC. We need to be dialed in. We also need to look at Dixie. The stablecoin dominance, all that is going to help guide us on how we can best position ourselves in quarter one, which we were anticipating on this channel, for the record, was going to be bullish. We thought, okay, some weakness in January. We even thought potentially a red January. So nothing that's happening now is surprising me. What is potentially changing on my mind, at least, is how long is this going to go on for? It could go on for longer than we anticipate. And that's something I'm trying to keep an open mind to. So no need to panic. No need to think we're in a bear market or we're about to head into one. I don't think so. I still think it's a bull market, but I think it's just a different bull market. Okay. And to try to compare it to a previous bull market, I feel is a little bit foolish. We just have to kind of take things as they come and position ourselves accordingly. As one of the guys on my channel says, I can't plan my trades perfectly, but I can trade my plan. So that's probably the best piece of non-financial advice that I could share with you. Again, I can't trade my plan. I can't plan my trades perfectly, but I can trade my plan. Okay. I think I said that right. All right, folks. So be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you enjoy the content, join me in Telegram. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, so you can follow me there. And until then, I will see you next time. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye.